With this week's weather mostly like this, I had to work between rain showers to get anything done outside. In stark contrast, it was only a few weeks ago that we were in 30 plus degrees walking in the Gerres National Park, which you can see at the end of the video. I continued installing the starter track for the external insulation around the house. These flimsy aluminium tracks provide a base for the insulation boards that we will fix to the outside face of the walls. It's important to get these rails as level as possible so that it makes life easier when installing the insulation above. I don't think that they are all perfectly level, but they are good enough, and any slight adjustments can hopefully be made during the next stage of the process. In the last video, I mentioned that I 3D printed some shims to level the starter track against the existing wall. This was the case mainly with the older rendered walls. The walls of the extension were flatter and needed little to no shims. My process was fairly simple. I would offer up the aluminium track to the wall, mark the locations of the fixings with a Sharpie, drill into the wall at the marked locations with my SDS drill, then insert wall plugs, offer up the track again and fix it to the wall with some screws. If the track wasn't as level as I would like it, I would loosen the screws again and try and level it once more. In places the render fell away when I drilled into it, which makes sense as I was drilling into the edges which are weak points. I plan on tidying these areas up as we apply the render coats in the future. Unfortunately, I underestimated the number of shims required for the starter track, so I had to 3D print some more. This held up progress as I had to wait for them to be printed. I could only do so much before I needed more shims to continue, so I did some other jobs in between. The first job I took on was to start removing the brambles that had taken over the garden in places. One particular area was around our well in the top corner. I'm still undecided as to what to do up here, but removing the brambles might give me some ideas. I would like to get the well functioning at some point, but it's not really a priority at the moment. I will bring the brush cutter in here, but at the moment there are some metal bars, trees and other things hidden under the grass, so I want to get these clear before going in with the heavy tools. Another job I've been putting off is to clear out the attic. When we bought the house, the attic was full of the previous owner's junk, with hundreds of glass jars and bottles as well. And after several short stints up there, we managed to partially clear it out, but I decided to spend an afternoon clearing everything left up there out. We plan on insulating the attic floor for this winter, so it needs to be done. Together with the attic, another clear-up job was in the garden. In one corner there was a pile of empty glass bottles that over the years had been grown over by grass and brambles. There must have been hundreds of bottles here, and together with the contents of the attic, filled up 6 full carloads that I then took to the recycling bins at the top of the village. We did keep some of the glass bottles for future uses, but don't have any strong ideas on what to do with them yet. The wall undulates a lot more than I thought, so I'm having to 3D print a lot of shims. Each shim that I'm printing is 2mm thick. In some places I've had to use 4 shims, so there's an offset between levels of about 8mm. As the wet wintry weather starts to become the norm here, it was clear that we needed somewhere to hang up wet coats. And as you probably guessed, I 3D printed the hooks. I'm sure other 3D printer owners will agree that when you have one, you are constantly looking for ways to use it. I applied linseed oil to a timber batten that would be fixed into the wall and screwed the 3D printed hooks to the batten using some spare screws. The coat hooks will be placed in a temporary position as I will be externally insulating this section of the wall. I plan on adding some brackets here, similar to the ones for the shutters, so I can mount a coat rack here securely after the wall is insulated. With the track finally completed around the house, the next step is to start attaching the insulation boards onto the walls. From everything I have read, doing this in rainy weather is not the best idea, so we might have to wait for a patch of dry weather, which, after looking at the forecast, might not be for another week or so. Oh. A few weeks ago, we went to the Jerez National Park, around an hour and a half drive from our house. At this point, there was a mini heatwave in Portugal, and we made the most out of it. We hiked to the Seven Lagoons, which, if you're in the area, is definitely worth a visit.